Alright, I'm going to show you how I make tacos. I make them pretty much from scratch, and I try to make them as Mexican or as authentic as possible. So, let's take a look here. Now what we have here is the maseca. This is what's used to make the tortillas, and when I mix this, I mix it in a ratio of about 2 to 1, so by volume. I'll pour some maseca in a measuring stick like this, right here. I'll pour it into here, and let's say if I use this much maseca, pour it up to the top, then I'll use about this much water, and then I'll adjust it. I will add a little more or a little less, so it's not too sticky when I roll it up into balls. Because if it's too watery, then it's too sticky, and if it's not watery enough, then it's powdery. Then, once you roll it up into a ball about this size or bigger, stick it on here, and then let me show you. Now you got to use this plastic. Wax paper works good, but I don't have any, so I have to use these plastic bags. Because you need those to keep it from sticking to this. If you don't have this, then it's going to stick to that. And you need a plate to put the ones in. Okay, now I got one cooking here. And I need a spatula. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so it's starting to brown a bit. And you do that on both sides. Alright, so I've got enough in here to make maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 tortillas. So that's 4 or 5 tacos, but sometimes you like to double tortilla them, in which case you would get half as many tacos. Now, once you're satisfied with it, a little bit brown on one side and a little bit brown on the other, or just starting to brown, which is not quite there yet. But when it gets there, then you stick it in a plate and you cover it with a towel. And also, here's something else. You can see the tortillas start puffing up and filling with air pockets, and it's coming out right. And this one is a little bit. Because every time you do it, or at least every time I do it, it's always different. It's just a slightly different mixture of water and maseca. But this one does appear to be puffing up nicely. Maybe it could stand to be puffed up a little bit more, but that's okay. It's not really that necessary. This is going to work out just fine. So let's check it. Yeah, some browning on the other side. Good enough. So I'm going to stick it in here. And I'm going to cover it. And then, so I got one finished, and now I'll put another one on. There's something else I found. If you try to take these, put them in your hand and stick them on there, usually don't come out. They don't lay flat. This is the best way that I found to do it. But you gotta be careful as your plastic can melt if you leave it on there too long, which you probably are aware of. In fact, it looks like I have some melting on this already. Get the next one pressed and ready to go. But the thing is, if they're not too runny, then, they won't necessarily stick to your hand, and it's much easier to get them to go flat on there. So what do you put on tacos? Well, cilantro and onions and limes is the most traditional thing to put on a taco, whether it be carnitas or asada or al pastor. Unfortunately, I don't have limes, so I had to cut up some lemons, and the onions I have is a mixture. It's a fajita type of mix, so we got a little bit of red and green bell peppers in there. They add no heat. So that's what I'm going to be putting on these tacos. So they're not going to be 100% authentic. And sometimes I use a press for my tortilla. Alright, that one's done. Now, I've got another tortilla cooking, but I'm going to go ahead and make a taco here. And there's my tortilla, and I'm going to use some cheese on it. Most Americans will put some kind of yellow cheese on it, usually cheddar. I like Mexican cheese when I use it, but traditionally tacos don't come with cheese. But I like it because I'm a gringo. Most gringos like cheese. Well, I almost forgot the meat, and here it is. It's slow roasted pork without any kind of seasoning. It was a pork shoulder or a picnic roast or something like that that I cooked for several hours on really low heat until it's shredded. And there's not any seasonings in there, so it's going to be plain tasting. It's kind of similar to carnitas, but carnitas is cooked differently with a cazo, a big brass or a copper pot that's cooked in oil, and it's braised around this on the edges, a little bit crunchy on the edges. So this is carnita-like, but it's not exactly carnitas. And we'll stick it in here and heat it up. And here's my carnitas. And there's the first taco. Got some cheese on there and put the hot pork on there. And now I'll top it with some cilantro and onions and this other stuff, peppers. Squeeze a bit of lemon on there. These are old lemons, I had to get rid of them. Be better if it was lime, but that's all I have. I used to like to make my own hot sauce, but I don't have the ingredients, so I'm just going to use some habanero sauce, which is nice and hot and good, and let's see how that goes. Alright, so let's see how this is. These are usually pretty messy, because unlike in a restaurant, I stuff each tortilla is pretty full. Good. Pretty damn good. Now this is kind of the way that carnitas is supposed to be. You can see some braising on that meat. A little crusty, kind of give it a little bit of a crunch, but not too much. Now, I got some sour cream and some other salsa or sauce called yucateco, El Yucateco, green habanero. This is nice and hot and it's good, one of my favorites. And sour cream isn't necessarily a topping that is traditionally put on tacos, but it is put on other Mexican dishes. And a lot of people would put it on tacos, so I'm going to put it on this taco because I like sour cream. All these flavors just complement each other so well. You got the cilantro and the onions and the lemon, which normally would be lime, which would be better. And the hot sauce. The meat doesn't even need to be seasoned because the other flavors carry it. And then the sour cream and the cheese, the fat, that enhances it. And I like both these hot sauces, but I think I like the green one, the El Yucateco, a little bit better for tacos. Because it's actually more Mexican. It just seems to go better with it. Yeah, this is definitely something that Taco Bell can't compare to.